going to take a second. You know how that thing has to wind up and stuff. But when they play it, I'm thinking me saying the wind up stuff. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I really want to say today, how are y'all doing? Yeah. Awesome. Facebook Live, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to give you a second. Anybody show anyone populate yet? Mm-hmm. Who populated?
Leona.
Yes. Please share this video. I'll give you a second. Second's over. Hey, no. All right, we good? Thank you. So sweet. Okay, welcome to the Living Room Conversations. Conversations from us and for us. The segment tonight will be about Black History First, as well as involvement in the Civil Rights Movement. You know, generally we talk about African American historical figures, the national ones, their accomplishments, their leadership, their sacrifices, their dedication to push the African American community forward, as well as America, and that is awesome. They should be celebrated, but also we have local African Americans who are doing the firsts. It shouldn't even be a word these days, African Americans doing anything the first, as long as we've been here. However, it's still happening. People are still dedicated. People are still sacrificing. People are still in leadership roles. People are still accomplishing things. And what better way to tell their stories than to have them sit here and tell their own stories? Plenty of times we can read about stories, but they're not even written, or the story's not even told by the individual themselves. So we hear it from someone else's point of view. But we're going to hear it from their point of view. And that is so awesome. There are plenty of people in our communities that are pushing the agenda and pushing us forward. But tonight we're just going to celebrate these three. Okay, so please welcome Pamela Hughes, Angela Pierre-Louise, and Michael Van Leeson. Conversations. So, thank you guys for saying yes when I called upon you. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you coming on to the talk show. I also, Pam, I've known you for a long time, and when I recently found out your accomplishments and your records and all that, I was like, wait, we have that right here? Are you kidding me? I thought that was awesome. I've also met Angie about a year and a half ago or so at one of my places, yes, and I was like, what, you're a first? This is awesome, and you look beautiful. Look at you. Yes, you're representing us. That is awesome. It could be somewhere else, someone somewhere else, but it's you. And of course, Michael Van Leeson. Who does not know you? I know. Everyone knows you. All of your, well, if not all of them, they know that you've accomplished a lot in our community, and I'm honored not just to have you sitting here, but to call you my cousin, which we found out just recently, and I'm like, that is awesome. I admire you. When I grow up, I want to be like you. I don't want to stop helping in whatever I can to, again, like many others in the community, to help make things better for the community, and constantly giving back regardless of the ridicule or whatever it might be. We just know that in our heart and the passion that goes for it, why we do what we do. So as we go forward, we're going to start with Pamela and then Angela, if you don't mind. Okay, so Pam, tell us a little bit about yourself.
What do you want to know?
Yes, Pamela Hughes.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you work, if you don't mind, your children, any of their accomplishments, what you're doing now. You know, are you part of the Cowboys, those things like that?
I'm a parole officer during the day.
Okay.
For the state of Rhode Island, and I am the president of the Mount Hope Cowboys, which is our youth football and cheerleading organization here in the Mount Hope neighborhood. I am a vice chairperson of the Juvenile Hearing Board, a royal ambassador to Miss Black USA Rhode Island.
Yes.
And that's That's me. I
Right.
have 2 daughters.
Beautiful daughters.
Yes.
So again,
Sharice and Destiny. Sharice is here in Rhode Island, and Destiny's away at school at Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta. So they're doing well, and I'm proud of them.
Awesome, you should be. I know them. They're wonderful. You know, and they remind me so much of you. They're giving, they're loving. You know, just about everything you want when you raise a child, your
Yes.
children. They're fine examples.
She was also a fairly good athlete.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Yes. Yes. That is why she is here. Had she done anything else, maybe not, no. So, Angela, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm currently a senior at Bayview Academy in East Providence.
Oh, nice.
I'm a resident of Coventry, Rhode Island. I have 2 brothers and 1 older sister who is in the audience right now with her beautiful son, Zachary. I am the reigning Miss Black USA Talented Teen. And I'm very happy to be here.
Right, thank you. Thank you so much. You're dazzling. Oh my gosh. Mike, can you top that?
What I can say is that I'm inspired by Helen, and she reminds me a lot of myself. During my younger days, just always been on a mission, and born and raised in Providence. In fact, lived right across the street from this beautiful place you've assembled here, with a 186 Camp Street. So I'm an old East Sider from way back, Lippert Hill and all that kind of good stuff. Went to Hope High School, played a little sports there, and just committed myself to pushing the folks and making and creating opportunity, and hopefully inspiring people to do, and to make others reach back.
Oh gosh,
to do.
yes.
You know,
That-
so,
I'm sorry.
so it's been an interesting journey. 6 children. The oldest and the smartest is my daughter Jill.
Yes, I agree.
And they're all doing well, 4 grandchildren, and they're well grounded. But they don't give me any money, but I love them anyway. But I'm so proud to be assembled here today. I'm really proud of what you've done, Helen. I really am. I'm inspired. And I know that you inspire others just in what you do and how strongly you feel about things.
You're gonna make me cry. This wasn't supposed to be about me, it's about you. And yes, because Jill is here, she is, you know, probably one of your favorites. The best looking, does the most, no. Just in case the other ones tune in, they're all great.
You know, another thing I just want to say, it's such a local, I used to get my hair cuts right across the street in the Carey Barber Shop, which Alona knows a bit about. Alona's uncle, grandfather, and your uncle Ernest, they used to cut my hair at the barber shop right next door.
Right there, or where Jax used to be. Really? Really? Didn't Ben Powers used to live there?
I think he did.
The one that was on Good Times, correct? Right there as well? Okay. I wasn't around that. We actually used to come visit for the summer, so we moved back in '81. I was born here in the year we moved, so when I came back in '81, I'm sure a lot of those things were gone. Especially, I do not remember that. Okay, well that is awesome, awesome, awesome. So Pam, you know why you're here.
Yes.
Yes. And I can't wait. No, because when I think about our accomplishments here, I just feel so good inside, because sometimes in this world and the things we're bombarded with makes us feel as though we're not as good as we are, or as great as we are, or we're not capable of doing particular things. So when I find out the things that we are doing, oh my gosh, I feel like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, can I have that one? And to know you, gosh, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
So I hear you hold some track records.
I do.
Yes. So please tell us how amazing you are, because you are amazing. So. What? You are amazing, so come on, tell us.
I do. I hold 2 state records. The outdoor high school long jump record, I've held that for 2018, 33 years.
Wow, wait. 33 years.
No one.
You're good. You're good. I told you you were amazing, but Dad.
And I hold the outdoor long jump record as well, 34 years.
Wow.
Those are my 2 Rhode Island records.
Do you have any other records outside of this being from?
Yes, I do. I hold UMass Amherst's 200-meter record. That is 32 years in May. And the long jump record, indoor long jump record, and it's also 32 years.
Wow. Wow. Well, the reason, yes. Did you do that spoken word? Well, the reason why I'm really interested, how I was very athletic in elementary school in Florida. They train you young, like literally out of the womb. They got you running around, high jump, relay racing, and all those things. And I was a promising athlete until my leg got jammed up underneath my mother's car. So, I know, I guess it wasn't, in my future. And I probably wouldn't have met my wonderful husband and had my beautiful child, who is simply amazing and talks a lot. She is amazing though. So, the track thing, it's near and dear to me. So, you are awesome, I told you. So, Angela, I'm going to get to you. So, how did you get started or interested in Miss Rhode Island Black Talented Team? Because that's where you started, if I'm correct.
Yes. So I competed in a regular state pageant called National American Miss, and it was for Southern New England. And I did pretty well considering I hadn't practiced at all. I placed top 10. And after I did that, I was like, I want to compete in another pageant. I want to compete in another pageant like right now. So I was talking to my sister in the car on the way to school, and I was like, I really want to compete in the pageant. I feel like I just got this, itching for it. And she was like, okay, so good, And I was like, well, no, but something that I want to do is I want to compete with girls who look like me. And she was like, okay, we can work this out. One of my friends, she did a pageant that was, for young women of color, and I'll reach out to her and see if that's still a thing. And it was. However, nobody, no young women that are in my age category had done the pageant before. So we reached out to nationals, we asked them about it, and they were like, yeah, we'd definitely be interested in having her apply for the position. And that's what I did. I sent in my bio and my headshot, and on December 31st, 2015, they sent me a nice email saying that they would like me to represent Rhode Island.
Yes. And you are representing us well. Look at you. Look at you. Okay.
And then, so as soon as I got my crown and sash, I was hitting the ground running, going to as many events as I possibly could. And then the national pageant happened last July, and I won.
Yes.
So that's the whole story of it, basically.
Right. Well, I ran into you at a bowl-a-thon.
Yes.
I was like, what is this? For real, I was like, no, not as this as like a thing, but I'm like, why does she have that crown on? What is this? Because we don't see this here.
Right.
And I began to talk to you, and I was like, look, I'm doing a play. Can you come, look all beautiful like this? And you were like, yes. So this is awesome, because our young girls need to see this. Because when we look at TV, when we look in the magazines, we look on the internet, everyone that's wearing that crown and that sash, they don't look like us, which is another symbol of beauty. So if we don't see ourselves there, we don't see ourselves as beautiful, which is ridiculous. So I'm looking at you. You are radiant.
Thank you.
You are gorgeous. You are special. I mean, all those things that we don't hear a lot of, that's what you represent. Not just because you have that kind of sash, but because you are Angela Pierre-Louise. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm glad you guys are actually taking this and just running with it and getting the little girls, young girls and the teenagers involved and excited about being beautiful. And when I say being beautiful, the way we see it on the outside. And knowing that they can wear that crown or that sash, or they can compete, they can throw on the eye makeup, you know, whatever it takes to hold that title. So I love it. 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 I do. I'm sorry. I just love it. Mike. They said that, right? I can't go any further because I don't want to, I think I'm using their commercial stuff here. So, how did you get involved with the civil rights movement? Mm-hmm.
Being old, first of all, I just want to say how inspired I am by the self-confidence of the three of you. Because that's what drives everything. I don't care about external things and the racism and all that. It's all within our self-confidence and what we want to be and how we want to do it. And not feel wonderful about what color we are. Right. But I just see it in the three of you, and I'm just pleased to be here. But how I got started in the civil rights movement was I was in college way back in the '60s, right at the height of the civil rights movement. But I wasn't really engaged in it. I was playing basketball, having fun, but I read a book. This was during the time when Dr. King emerged. Right. And I said, oh, gee, I'm having fun. I wonder what's going on down there in the South and all this stuff, Just totally unaware. And I read this book. Oh, my brother was involved in the Nation of Islam. Okay. So that kind of piqued my interest. So what's happening here? And I'm a good Episcopalian. I was maybe then. But in any event, it piqued my... it was all about feeling good about yourself. Right. I'm not even talking about the religion. And then I read this book called The Negro Revolt. And it's one of the things I inspire all of our young to do is to read. And basically it opened my eyes to the civil rights movement, the history of black folks. And then I realized that I was not doing what I should be doing. And it was like a light bulb came on, and I said, I just got to be involved with my people. I just have to be. I've been in France for 3 years playing ball over there, and come back here, Emmett Till, all these other things are going on, and I'm saying, something's wrong, and I just can't live a life of just sitting back. And so I jumped on this mission, and went first to work with Dr. King in 1962. While I was in college, spring and the summers, go down there. We were registering voters in Atlanta, Georgia. And Atlanta, Georgia is supposed to be the Mecca. No one realized back in the 60s, that place was as segregated and people were, but the strength of Atlanta was it had 4 black historical colleges, these strong institutions, a few black businesses. So it was more sophisticated, it had more power than most other southern states. And so Dr. King strategically felt this was the way to launch the civil rights movement. From there, at that time we registered voters in Atlanta, Georgia. My leader was Andrew Young. I don't know if any of you, but we became good buddies and stuff like that. And I was hooked. And I'd come back home, to Rhode Island and worked on fair housing. Because at one time, you folks are too young, but your parents probably knew a time when we could only live right in a real restricted area. You couldn't move anywhere else. There might be some folks on the west side. Right. I mean, Redline, Johnston, and we were just discriminated and kept wherever they had to live. And we fought for fair housing, and I organized 4 colleges and students, hundreds of them, to protest and to push for a fair housing bill in the General Assembly, which was ultimately passed. We used to sleep in there, do all those things, marched around the State House, inside the State House, all of that. And then just kept moving along until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed. And that's when Dr. King mobilized a project in the Black Belt counties of the South. Mississippi, Alabama, where there was a high concentration of black folks that weren't registered to vote. And the Klan was there doing their thing, frightening out people, telling us, making sure that if they ever thought about voting, they were going to lose their jobs or their lives. I mean, it was that crazy.
That scare tactic.
And so our job, there was 365 of us around the country. We spent 1 week with Dr. King and all of the people that you see on television.
Right.
And 1 week of orientation, Gandhian philosophy, nonviolence, and all that. And then we were sent out to different counties to go to work. In our county, there were 7 of us. We worked in a place called Choctaw County, which was right on the Mississippi line. We were 24 miles away from where Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney, those civil rights workers were killed. We were right in the heart of it. And I won't be too long-winded with this.
No, that's okay. No, but
But
this is interesting.
this particular county had over 7,000 black people that were eligible to vote.
Wow.
And there were only 113 that were on the rolls. And it was our job was to mobilize the community and to get people to vote. Now, sounds easy, but clearly, getting folks who had a history of knowing their grandparents were lynched and all kinds of craziness happening there, and getting them to mobilize. But it was a black church. I mean, the leadership there really stood strong, and a lot of the younger black kids stood strong with us. And when we left that summer, I met the Klan. I met the Ku Klux Klan. I did meet them. What a wonderful group of people. And it was crazy. A lot of crazy things happened. We had to create. We didn't do the violence. They did the violence. That allowed us to contact the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. The Justice Department came down, and then they opened up the polling booths, because before, the only time you could vote in that county was from 9 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday, first Monday of the month.
Wow.
At the courthouse where the Klan was.
Right, exactly.
So,
and all the protesting.
It's crazy. In any event, when we left that summer, we had registered over 1,500 voters.
Awesome.
And, but that was happening all throughout the South. And I look back on it now as an older fellow, looking back and seeing what's been happening now, seeing Obama being elected president.
Right.
I can just see all that work that happened about 50 years ago, how it's manifested and it's taken us to this point. Now we got to take it, you young folks, you got to take it from this point and take it to the next level.
Exactly.
And I'm inspired. I'm an old optimist, and I'm just seeing some great potential leadership that's emerging in our community that is black first, but loves all of humanity.
Right.
And that's where I think it should be. But we can never forget who we are.
Right.
I mean, we're always reminded, all we got to do is look at our hands or put a mirror to our face.
That's right.
And remember that we owe.
Right.
We owe. And we're all sitting here now. Most of us have had 3 meals.
Yeah, we had
We'll take care of that after this. But I'm just, at this age, as Jilly knows, I'm just as, and people say, when are you going to retire? You don't retire when you're on a mission.
No,
That's true.
You don't retire. When you're on a mission and you're committed to your children or something, to helping somebody, you just can't retire.
Amen.
That's not in the cards.
Right.
You don't do that.
Right, that's what I was talking about the passion. But while you're still on that, there's a question I had to ask. You said, at Mississippi, there were only 100 and something black people that were registered to vote. Now, were those registered voters male who had land? Because at one time, only particular people
Yeah.
could register, could vote. Really,
Yeah.
it was generally white males, and
Exactly.
then those who own land.
Yeah.
So if you didn't own land, even if you were white, you still couldn't vote at a particular time. So
Yeah, they
Was
were
it-
the,
or was
they
this
were the
mixing?
sort of, there's always a privileged group even amongst the oppressed.
right,
And so, there was that small 100 or so that had some standing in the community, land or producing some product that the white man needed and all that kind of stuff. But you're absolutely right, it was just people that were on a different plane,
right,
and some called them Uncle Toms.
right,
It did exist.
right. Well, could you tell us one of your proudest moments during that time?
Oh, I can think of a few. One that's kind of laughable, but it wasn't funny then, was when the Ku Klux Klan, they knew where we lived, and they were going to come through where we lived and shoot up the place. And so I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm saying, we studied nonviolence there in Atlanta, and we're in the house of there were two of us, with a woman who was the wife of the pastor, who was one of the leaders there. He was out on doing some work. And so we're in the house, it's nighttime. Here comes the Klan. They're coming down the street. Coming down the street in the cars with cross, like Christmas tree lights coming down. And the guns were blazing.
Oh my Lord.
And I was like, okay, Mike, I should have been proud of this. Not really.
Right.
But I just wondered what
But
could
not
I,
really
what,
good.
yeah, what could I do? But this Mrs. Spears, who was a woman there, she didn't take the same course we took in nonviolence, and she had a gun. And the car came up on the door and the flowers and all that stuff. I didn't know she had the gun. There was two of us guys standing right there, standing by the door like that. She opened up on him.
Wow.
She opened up
Right.
on him and I mean blew out tires and all. Shut up. You never heard about these kinds of things that were going on during that time, but people were fighting back. And then up in the hills, all them young guys, they were up there with rifles just shooting.
Wow.
And I'm nonviolent, but I was so proud that there was no fear.
Right.
Because that's what kills us. Fear kills us. And there was no fear. So that was one of my strange, proud moments. You know what I mean? That there was no fear. And I said, wow, that told me a lot about possibilities.
Right.
What could happen in the future.
No, I said that's awesome because you have a right to protect what's yours.
Yeah.
I can see if they were just going out, and just maliciously killing white people just because.
that's-
But yeah, I that's
The
awesome.
other hell, the other one, which was the one I'll never forget, was spending a week with Dr. King. Here was 300 of us, and we're going all preaching, all churches, and he's giving us direction, and we're learning strategy, and we're learning how to be good human beings, but not being afraid, and not being afraid to die. And in fact, when we all signed up to do this work, we had to sign a paper that said, Southern Christian Leadership Conference will not be responsible if you're killed.
Wow.
Yeah, we had to all sign that.
Wow.
That's when I started to Providence.
MOU. You can sign that.
Back home, telling my little girl.
That's right. Wait, we have to sign this? You know what? I'm getting on that bus. Right.
But it's been an interesting and lovely journey. And I'm just so, I love black people.
Me too.
I mean, it's like we don't even know, many of us don't know how beautiful we are,
Right.
or how deep we go, or how much talent we have,
Right.
because it's been kind of held down, hasn't been nurtured. But we're gems. We are serious,
Amen.
serious gems.
Oh.
And that's what we got to convey to all of our kids. You know, we just got to convey it.
I agree.
Amen.
Well, just before I go to Angela, well, I grew up in the early 70s in Florida. Right after I was born, we moved to Florida. And we could only go so far because the KKKs were still prevalent. And just, you know, down the block, we would say about 3 blocks. We couldn't go there at particular times because the Klux Klan, they would be out.
Yep.
And you know, just even still riding the bus to school, we were forced to sit in the back. And this was the 70s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
and you know, sometimes you think because, you know, we had our voting rights and the proclamation of the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, that everything was hunky-dory, but it wasn't, you know. So I can kind of feel a little bit of, you know, what you're talking about. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of our kids today, they hadn't experienced that, you know, and sometimes they don't even, they need to know that those things happened and the sacrifices that were made so that our kids can do what they do,
Yeah.
even though we don't agree with some of the stuff they do. So, Angela, I had a couple of questions. So, what are some of your greatest achievements being Rhode Island's first Black USA team?
Wow. Personal achievements are just...
You can go generally and personal.
Okay, well, I think for me, a personal achievement would have been successfully executing my talent on stage, because not many people know this, but I did martial arts and a soca dance, you know, mix. But I had actually, you know, taken a break from martial arts 6 months, almost 8 months actually, before I competed. So I was not getting the music, getting the movements, getting my stamina up was just so challenging and so frustrating, because, you know, you do one thing, that doesn't really work with the music, you end up winded by halfway through your routine, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this on the stage. But thankfully, once I got on stage, something was in me, and I finished that form completely, perfectly, and successfully. And because of the title. An achievement for Rhode Island, I think, or in general, was winning nationals. Only because I feel like when I was speaking to a lot of girls, trying to get them to, you know, see if they would like to compete on the state level, because I mean, this is a first, you know, it's a very first-timer friendly pageant, especially for young women of color, because I have to tell you, not many other pageant systems have a lot of diversity. So I think for me, winning the title really showed people that, like, wow, if she can do it, then I can do it too.
Right.
And, you know, that's really the message that I want to send out to all the young girls, is that, look, I was not like this 2 years ago. I was a quirky, timid, shy, quiet young woman, and now I'm here, all because I competed in one pageant, and then I competed in the Black pageant, and then that took me way up. So that's definitely some of the greatest achievements.
That is awesome. Awesome. So, Pam, how did you get into track and field?
Well, when I lived in Connecticut, when I lived in Stamford, we used to play a game in the playground. So I lived in a high-rise, and we used to play this game in the playground in the back of the building. It's called Ring Olivio, and it was almost like a tag type of game. But the playground was huge, so you would run from one side and try to tag people on the other end. And there was a man who ran the recreation department, Mr. Longo, who used to man the playground during the summertime. And he used to watch us, and I didn't know he was watching us. And he asked if I wanted to run in a track meet. And it was the first Jesse Owens track meet that they were having around the country. It was 1979. So I was like, sure. So we would practice diagonal, just me running back and forth. And so I competed in Stanford at the Jesse Owens track meet, and I won the 100-meter. Well, it was a 100-yard dash then. And I got a chance to go to Boston University, to compete in the regional Jesse Owens meet. So the funny thing about it is, the weekend that we were competing in Boston was the weekend my family moved to Rhode Island. So competed. I missed going to California by a tenth of a point, and heard that the only girls track team in Rhode Island was at Tollgate High School. So I was like, wow, I got a long way to wait for track. Not realizing I was not going to Tollgate.
Of course not.
Because I lived in Providence. So from 12 years old until Tom Spann came to Hope my sophomore year, I hadn't run anymore. So he sent out a yellow sheet of paper asking if anyone was interested in girls track. I was bored, wasn't doing anything after school, and decided to sign up. And that's how I got into track.
That's awesome, awesome. Oh my goodness. So I'm assuming that's when you knew you had talent, because you won, correct?
Well, actually, no. My sophomore year, when we first started running, we weren't actually a high school team. We were considered a club team, because Hope didn't have a track team at the time, so you had to wait a year to become part of the interscholastic league. So we competed as Hope's track team, but on a club level, and we would compete against other schools, but it didn't count. So us running was just more like a practice thing. And during the summer, I ran for the Cobras, and getting ready for junior year to be a part of the interscholastic league. And it wasn't really until that year that I really started winning. And my mother, God rest her soul, she bet me. She was like, if you can break the long jump record, I'll buy you a lobster.
I'm breaking that.
So, back then, a lobster, okay.
I'll break that now.
I was like, a lobster? She said, yes, if you do it, I'll buy you a lobster. And I was like, okay. I really didn't think I was going to do it. I did it, and I did. I broke the record. It was, I set the record at 18 feet 11 inches, and I was happy because I knew I was getting lobster.
Never mind doing it, right?
And that year, I wound up being all-state in the 100 meters and the 200 meters, and then with my relay team, the 4x1.
Wow, you probably would have won it all had, the lobster dangled in front of you. Every competition, right?
Yeah, so that was junior year, and then senior year, Hope we were cheerleaders, football, basketball. So my senior year, Tom was like, oh yeah, you're not going to be cheerleading. You're not going to be a basketball cheerleader. I'm like, yeah, I am. He's like, no, you're not. He goes, you're going to run track. I was like, we don't have a team. He was like, you're the team. So that's how I ran indoor track. And at the time, I tell my daughter Destiny all the time, she's lucky, because back when we were in high school, the girls didn't have an indoor league. So I ran and I practiced with the boys, and Tom would take me to invitational meets. And now the girls have this big indoor league, and we didn't have that. And just think, that was 85.
Wow.
We didn't have that. So I went to, I got invited to the National Indoor Championship for high school, and I couldn't get my steps for long jump. So long jump is marking your steps, running down the runway, jumping in the pit. And I could not. I fouled 2 jumps. There was a girl that could jump 19 feet. I was like, yeah, I'm done. Just saying to myself. But I was angry because I couldn't get my steps. So I was like, I'm just going to go for it. So I barreled down down the runway and hit the jump. I was like, ooh, that's kind of far. I'm saying to myself, oh, that's kind of far. Tom and Kevin Jackson, they're walking, they couldn't be where I was, but they were on the track. So they're walking back and forth, and I'm just waiting for the guy to mark it, and I'm like, okay, what is it? I'm itching, and they're like 19 feet 3 1/4. I jumped straight in the air. Kevin jumped straight in the air. Tom jumped straight in the air, and I was national champion.
Oh my gosh.
This girl, who was supposed to be the national champion, she didn't break 19 feet that day, and I did, and that was probably one of my best and most proud moments in track.
Well, I can say anger will cause us to do things like supernatural. Well, you kind of touched on it because I was going to say, what role did your coach play in your achievements?
So, Kevin was like the background coach. He really didn't deal with the girls, but he helped me with long jump. But Tom was more my inspiration. He believed in me more than I believed in myself. A lot of my running was natural talent. I think I probably could have did a whole lot better if I probably gave 150%. But he believed in me. And he wasn't, Tom was tough back then. He's a little softy now. He was very tough back then. You know, he knew what we could accomplish. And Hope's girls never had big track teams. It was always 7 to 12 girls, and the 2 years that I ran where we competed in the interscholastic league, we came in third with just the 7 of us. And you know that, and we didn't have a lot of field events. I did the long jump. Sherry Newsom did the long jump. Janelle did the long jump. But we didn't have a lot of people out there throwing shot put, throwing the javelin and things like that. It was basically the sprints, and the relays. So, you know, when we went out, we competed. We competed for our school, and I was proud to wear a Hope track uniform. You know, proud to represent the state at the national level. That was big. I'm thinking national's no big deal. It really was a big deal. You know, and looking back on it, the same day that I set the long jump record, I also set the state's 55-meter record. And that record lasted for 27 years.
Wow. Yes!
It was broken by a girl from Hope, Royal Cheatham, and then Mashira McIntosh. She tied it, and then she broke it, so she currently holds it. So Hope has held that record for over 3 years as well.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, Angie, before we go to our intermission, Angie, let's talk about your coach. You know, who is she, and how does her vigorous? Well, let's see. Your preparations. We need to talk about that.
Okay. So, for all who do not know, my big sister, Patrice Jean-Philippe, was my pageant coach, my mentor, my alarm clock, my gym trainer. She was everything in preparing for my pageant. And it was and Zach helped as well. He gave some very encouraging tips as I was screaming. Yeah, but if I won, she won. It was never just me alone competing in this pageant. It was me and her together doing everything. In as much as felt like, because when you're exercising and you're doing your form and you're answering all these questions, it feels like you're doing this all on your own. But taking a look back at it, it was me and her. She was up at 5 a.m. I was up at 5 a.m. We were going to bed at 12 a.m. at that night, and you know, we wake up the next day, we repeat, we go over questions. While she'll call me while she goes to work. Are you still awake? Are you practicing? Don't fall asleep. You still need to go on another bike ride. Don't play with me. You know, she comes home. Okay, it's time to go over questions. Let me see your walk. Let me see. You don't look that confident in that walk, girl. You need to try it again. And then also once we got down there for competition, my mom actually came a couple days later with Zach and my aunt and stuff like that, because me and my sister told our family, we were like, look, we're going down there on a mission. We can't really have that many distractions. Me and her driving in the car, we're literally strategizing what we're going to do when we're down there. We got to the hotel, we set up our room, we set up the atmosphere because that's also very important.
Exactly.
We prayed and prayed and then prayed again. It was like we were like Siamese twins for the whole competition.
Wow.
And the whole 6 months before the competition.
From beginning to end, right?
Exactly, yeah. But I wouldn't have even held the Rhode Island title if it wasn't for my sister. So
Yes. Well, what I would say is that anybody who is at the head or the top level, you don't get there by mediocre work or dedication. So you paid your dues and look at the results. So not just applaud your sister, you got in line and you said, okay, this is what I'm striving for, this is what I'm going to do. So, you know, it's wonderful to have a sister coach believe in you, but it's also wonderful when you believe in yourself. And I'm sure that made her job easier. Sometimes we believe in people more than they believe in themselves. And then when that challenge happens, you kind of give up as a coach, as a friend, whatever it might be, while you're trying to push someone where they need to be. So I'm sure you being passionate made it a lot easier, and that's why you are where you are today. So we're going to take a break. Thank you, Facebook Live, for tuning in to the Living Room Conversations. We'll be back with a poetry piece from Terry Hodge, and then our second part of the Living Room Conversations. Thank you.